Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the second round of competition here in the 2021 season of the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. It comes at you this time around from the Interlagos circuit, of course made famous for usually, or at least in the past, being one of the final rounds of the Formula 1 season. Of course, not too much in recent times, but still an absolutely fantastic circuit indeed. I'll be your commentator for this evening. My name is Connery Maddock. I'll be joined by Nolan Rempel in just a couple of moments' time, so you don't have to worry about that. Welcome everyone to one of the most famous circuits in Brazil. It's the second round of the season. We got off to an absolutely flying start at Road Atlanta with some absolutely amazing action up and down the field, and two very exciting finishes to that double header as well. But we head on to another double header here at Interlagos, so another long extended evening for some of these drivers here today. Then we head on towards Mid-Ohio for race number 3. Then Imola, Hockenheim makes its first appearance in the 2K World Cup here once we get to that on May the 23rd. Long Beach in the 6th round of the season, South Point Suzuka, and then towards the very end of the season as well, we start to get into a little bit of unknown territory because of, well, we don't know, drivers don't know what the track's going to be for the big group of rounds towards the very end there, so definitely watch this space when it comes to that. If you're unfamiliar with how the double headers work here in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup, then don't worry, we can get that up for you here. Race number 1 will only be 5 laps long, and of course you only get one chance in qualifying here as well, so if you butcher that one and only qualifying lap, well, you're going to have to start at the very back of the starting grid here today. Certainly something you do not want to be having to deal with. You do get a fast repair though in both races here today. You get a drive-through penalty every 15 incidents in both races, so you do have to keep it very clean indeed. Race number 2 though, a little bit longer, in fact a large amount longer. Race length 20 laps in that one, with the top 10 on the starting grid being reversed depending on the result of race number 1. So if you're in 10th as you finish race 1, then you'll be starting pole position for race number 2. Again, like I said, fast repair in the second race as well. Drive-throughs every 15 instance. That's very similar to race 1. But of course, in race 2, you'll have to do that scheduled pit stop. The maximum fuel, that 40%, not going to take you the entire distance. So you're going to have to come down in that expected pit stop window of around about lap number 9 to lap number 13. And of course, that's going to be where all the track position games are going to be happening there in that one. Here's the point system for the racing here today. Of course, you get 50 points for the maximum score at the very top there. You also get bonus points for qualifying as well, and you get bonus points for every lap led. Every 3 laps you lead, you get a bonus point. So it's not a bonus point just for the lead lap. You get, for every 3 laps that you do lead, you get a point. So if you lead 6 laps, you get 2 points, and if you lead 9 laps, you get 3 points, and goes up from there. So very beneficial to always be at the very pointy end of the field here today. Let's have a look at the standings then coming into round number 2. Kane Halliburton, after a fantastic performance last time out in the first round of the season, he leads the way on 107 points to Diogo Francisco's 93. Christian Perez in P3 with 85, Sankita at P4, and then you have Pablo Espes rounding out the top 5 in competition. Then you got Philip Hammer, Ludwig Guidi, Anthony Cat, Philippe Lebert, and Brian Lockwood bringing things down to the top 10 of things in the points. But of course, it is the very early stages here today. We've got the qualifying session going on right now, though, as we see the drivers start to take themselves to the circuit. And, well, it's the one and done qualifying here in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. So you cannot afford to be having any sorts of problems whatsoever when it comes to qualifying. Here's Gustavo Conde, who didn't have the best of times, shall we say, at Road Atlanta, but looking to try and get his season back on the right sort of track coming into this one, as we are currently, of course, in the very kind of later evening here at Interlagos, so you can see the sun blinding the drivers, especially if you have certain settings enabled as you climb up the hill towards the final couple of corners of the lap. Of course, in the skip barber car is going to be completely flat out coming through here, not a problem whatsoever. It's going to be the whole big slipstream train as well down in towards the first turn. But Gustavo Conde heading his way across the line now, and that will be to start a lap down in towards the center S. So let's just bring up his lap times here. You can see as his progress continues on, he's already negotiated the downhill section of the center S, now through the Curva del Sol. Just unwind that wheel slowly, make sure you carry all of the momentum possible coming through that high-speed corner, and now you look for the brakes into the Decido del Lago. Car wanting to slide out, step out a little bit, you just got to hold it and tease it all the way through. And now, as you get towards the bottom of the circuit, you start climbing back up the hill towards the middle sector of things, coming up towards Ferradura now in a high downforce car. There's a lot of grip coming through here. In these cars, not so much, as you have to get the slide on once again and just try and guide the car through the apexes. Get the car slowed down even more for the next right-hander. You can get it all over the curb there, and down into the winding left, go down and back up the hill. The elevation changes here are absolutely fantastic indeed. Now back on the brakes for the Pico Tapato. Again up over the curve. The track limits don't punish you too much coming through there, so you're free to do as you wish. You won't get a 1x by taking too much out of that, but of course there is always a line in the grand scheme of things here. Now in towards Gunsao on the end of the qualifying lap here for Gustavo Conde. That's the first real, that's the last real corner at this racetrack, since everything else is just guiding the skip barber cars through the sequence of left-handers. But we can see the big old flurry of qualifying times coming in now. Francisco gets himself up to the provisional pole position at the moment. That's Diogo Francisco with Simon Edwards in second place. What can Gustavo Conde do, though, as he heads his way across the line? It's a 1:53.126, which is good enough for 23rd on the starting grid here today. Is anyone else out there just about to come across the line? Yes, there is. Andrea Speciale comes across the line to go 14th in the qualifying order there for Andrea. And looking further down the order, you've got Anthony Cat now going to be heading his way to the line. He's one of, in fact, if not the final qualifier here today across the line, gets himself sealed up inside that top 10. Great performance from Anthony Cat to make sure that he's within the same postcode as the front of the grid here today. But all of a sudden, you know, that's just how quickly the qualifying goes here. We are over and done with it, and now we can head to our starting grid here in just a couple of moments. But what a qualifying. Of course, it's always super close here in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. But let's just take a little look at where everyone's starting here for the heat race. It's Diogo Francisco with Simon Edwards on the front row, Ludwig Guidi P3 and Pablo Espes P4, Edwin Valerino P5, Christian Perez P6 here today, Alfredo Malo in 7th with Gustavo Calvo in P8. Kane Halliburton, our points leader, starts in P9. Anthony Cat P10, Philippe Lebert in P11 with Manuel Lucetta in P12. Sankitit, Daniele Fogherini down to P14. You got Andrea Speciale and Remco Pleja in the 15th and 16th spots. Down to P18, you have Rebelta and Vico, as you see the rest of the runners cycle their way through right now. Of course, it is a 32-car starting grid here today. In this one, hopefully we get 32 cars to the checkered flag. That would be absolutely fantastic indeed. As we speak, though, the drivers are lining themselves out on the starting grid here. We will be getting going in just a couple of moments' time. You can just see how characteristic the starting grid is here, with the front of the grid heading up the hill, the back of the grid heading down the hill. That's just how the lay of the land is here at Interlagos, as drivers are getting themselves slowly but surely ready to go green flag racing here today. Just a couple of runners yet to make themselves known on the starting grid, waiting for Alfredo Malo in P6 at the moment. Everyone else is there ready and waiting. Still under the gridding procedure, but now they get the call. Now they have to prepare and rev those Skip Barber engines before we go racing for round number 2 here at Interlagos in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. As you can see, the swarming of the drivers behind, trying to gain track position here down in towards turn number 1. Francisco leads them in from the race lead. Simon Edwards secures P2, swings out in front of his competitors. Guidi gets up into P3. Pablo Espes P4, side by side between Valerino and Perez further behind. They're coming through the Curva del Sol right now. Alfredo Malo is also getting himself involved in this one, as you can see it from up above. Nolan, you're joining me in the commentary booth. We've gotten this race started.
Came in just at the right time, it would seem, as we dive ourselves down here for turn number 4. I tell you what, this has been a very clean start to this race. I honestly expected to see more attrition coming out of turn number 1 and the Senna S.
Oh, you jinxed it. You jinxed it. Someone's gone off wildly behind. Oh. Big incident. Big smash. Manuel Lucetta is involved in that one, as it's still going on a little bit further through the picture. But my word, what went on there? The action still continues out there on circuit, but what a smash that we've had at the very start here, Nolan.
Well, you know that's my job. My job is to come into these and introduce chaos. What happened there with Seam Connery was Alfredo Malo just got run over by Edwin Valerino just on the exit of turn number 4, and then Malo slid all the way across the track and unfortunately just got tagged by Manuel Lucetta, and that sent the 91 machine for a big spin as well.
Yeah, you can see it on this long shot down the sort of straight coming up the hill. There was more instance in front of that as well that I did spot. There's Edwin Valerino with big problems as well, coming through that first section of the lap. As we head back to the live pictures, then we can pull up the order as it stands, and look at this. We're seeing 3 wide for the race lead into turn number 1 here. Well, it's not a huge surprise considering these guys and how much action that we saw at Road Atlanta, but you can see them just really scrapping for position now. Ludwig Guidi at the front of this one now. Simon Edwards P2. Francisco, who was your pole position sitter, falls down into 3rd, and we even might see some signs of 4 wide here in a couple of moments' time, but they spread out down into the braking zone. Still 3 wide through the Descida del Lago. This is getting a little bit too intense for me right now, Nolan.
Well, it's a 5-lap sprint race. I don't know what quite we expected to see on this one, but still 3 wide in the run-up to the Verdura corner now, and they're still going 3 wide. This is absolutely unbelievable racing that we're seeing here. Christian Perez way off the track on the left side, and they're still maintaining the 3 abreast all the way through. They've been 3 wide for the better part of half a lap. Now, finally, they double file it out as we kind of dive down to the middle section where you really have to go single file through here, even in these skip harbors.
They simply have to, there we go, a little bit of a lock up there down into the corner involving, I think it was Kane Halliburton and Anthony Katz sort of area going on there as P6 and 7 out there on circuit. And yeah, it's it's getting quite intense and still remains intense, as we'll have to cycle things back just a little bit more to see some more action. And Sam Keating, Gonzalo Calvo, they're going wheel to wheel coming through the final couple of corners. They were able to get themselves all sorted out though, so that's not too much of a problem. Let's have a little ride on board with Gonzalo Calvo as he continues to hold the back of that car ahead of him, of Sam Keating. We got some changes for the race lead as well down in towards, is there an instant? There's a big puff of white smoke, but I think everyone has been able to keep themselves together there in that leading pack. But it's always slightly worrying, Nolan, when you have that much smoke ahead of you.
Oh yeah, it's always a big concern indeed, and now Simon Edwards finally going to go through and take over the race lead from Ludwig Guidi. Guidi's going to try to fight this one around the outside, and steps the back end out, but the Brit is able to get this one nice and sorted. Christian Perez slots right back in line behind Guidi. 3-car train here for the race lead. You got Pablo Espes trying to close it as well, and then Diego Francisco kind of just falling it down right in the background there, where they're side by side for 6th and 7th.
Here we go then, as we see yet more swarming behind, like you said, for 6th and 7th. There's Anthony Cat getting in, all sorts of involved there with Kane Halliburton, he's trying to go around the outside right now, has to slot in behind there. Keated on the back of him in that red and cyan machine as well, trying to make some forward progress early on in this race. Remember, this is just the sprint race, so it's fast and frantic here, not a lot of time for you to be able to make up those positions, which is perhaps why we're seeing a good couple of desperation moves, Nolan.
And this is kind of setting us up for what we can prepare to see when we come around to the feature race, the 20-lap feature race, where the top 10, I believe, are going to be inverted as well. So it is going to be quite the interesting race to see how this is going to play out. Elgate is going to fall back into the second position here if Christian Perez gets his way, trying to fight the long way around. Oh my goodness, Guidi's going to go all the way to the pit wall and 3 wide again for the race lead with 2 laps to go. That was opportunistic to say the very least.
Here, Guidi to the race lead. Perez fighting with him and bullies him out of lane. That was a bit forceful, and it's caused a bit of a chain reaction behind there as Espes now looking to get involved on the inside. Will we see, how many wide will we see here at this point? 3 wide? Well, there was temptation from a car behind to go 4 wide there. I think the maximum amount of cars you can get abreast down into there, Nolan's probably 4. If they get 5, I'd be impressed.
4 wide at the very most, and at that point they're going to be spinning each other out because you just can't go 4 abreast through the corners. You were seeing they were barely making it 3 wide, and even then you had guys that were running off the course as well. So it would be extremely tight for these guys to try to figure themselves out if they try to go 4 wide in there. But you never know. It is the 2K World Cup after all.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise us in some instances. Fighting further back through the pack as Diego Francisco is trying to fend off Pablo Espes there for P4 and 5 out on circuits as they'll continue this battle, the 105 and the 48. Coming through up towards the final sector of the lap. Got to go downhill again through this left-hander before you go on the brakes into Yun Sao. And, well, Francisco able to keep himself ahead for now, but this drafting pack keeping themselves well together. It's basically an entire pack going down into P9. So from P1 to P9, that's what this train is.
Does look like the top 3 are starting to break away just a little bit, which is good news for them. They don't have as much to worry about as we come around to take the white flag here on our sprint race here at Interlagos. Still side by side for 4th, though 3 wide for 4th now. Francisco in the inside, Halliburton on the outside. Then you got you got the poor 105 car just trapped in the middle there, who's going to get bullied out again as Pablo Espes, nowhere to go, has to back out, trying to fight the long way around the Curvo Grande now as he tries to get the outside of the 48 car Diego Francisco. No dice, though, with nobody to help him out in the draft. Yeah, lots of places to look at, but here comes the battle for the race lead once again. Here they go. Luke Guidi trying to fend them all off. They're going 3 wide behind him for P4, though, as we'll take a swing back to that. Kane Halliburton down the inside of his teammate there, forcing his teammate offline. So no love lost in the Racecraft Esports camp, it seems, between those 2 drivers. You can see side by side now for P2 coming up the hill towards Ferradura. Simon Edwards up into P2 now as he tries to track down Ludwig Guidi. Remember though, Nolan, it is a long run down in towards turn number 1 at the end of the lap here. So if you get that slipstream coming out of the final corner, or rather the final real corner I would call it, of Yun Sao, then you have a massive slipstream opportunity to try and get the race win at the line. But we're riding on board with Simon Edwards now to try and find out what sort of run he gets through those final couple of corners, because it could decide P1 here in the sprint race. Remember, top 10 are reversed here, so right now Philippe Laubert will be starting on pole position
for the feature event, but the battle for those an instant behind, but we'll keep with this race lead there as we saw a whole bunch of drivers tumble down the order. Who's going to come out on top though in terms of the race lead? Simon Edwards drafting in, getting closer and closer and closer. Looks to the outside now. This is the run to the line. Who's going to be able to get it? Simon Edwards is ahead, 3 wide to the line, and Simon Edwards is able to win the sprint race here at Interlagos.
Perez tried to pick up the second position, but just was not close enough to get it done from Ludwig Guidi. About 6,000 separated those two drivers, but Edwards gets it done. Pablo Espes, though, he was fighting for 6th. He unfortunately just ran it too deep into Jun Sao and sent himself off into the grass. So bad run there for Pablo Espes, who has got to start the future race all the way from the back.
Yeah, let's just take a look at it. This is the instant behind with the Gagala cars. Oh, it's a big send there from Espes, and it just slams into the side of Kita, and that is for sure Espes' race done there. Just a couple of corners before the checkered flag, but we're heading back to live, of course. The rest of the runners now starting to head their way across the line. But let's take a look then at the race results here in just a couple of moments once everyone has finished this one. So what a race it was, as we will get ourselves the heat race results up right now. There's Simon Edwards, 58 thousandths of a second at the start-finish line there, with Ludwig Guidi in P2, Christian Perez P3, Kane Halliburton P4, Diogo Francisco P5, Anthony Cat P6, Philippe Lebert P7 at the end, Robalta Calvo, and then Giuseppe Tellini will get our reverse grid pole position there. So fantastic stuff for him. We have to go through this one quite quickly, Nolan, because, well, the drivers are already taken themselves to the starting grid for the feature.
We absolutely do. So, Tapia Vico 12th, for Giarni in 12th, Sam Kiker 13th, Precario 14th, Andreas Spezial 15th, Gustavo Conde 16th, Machusiki in 17th, Philip Hammer 17th, Danielle Camare in 19th, Hans-Hur 20th, Sebastian Jackson 21st, Dancy 22nd. Rest of the grid will be coming up on the screen shortly there as they're almost done. Taking the starting grid here, Connery.
Yep, they are. So we will just have to take a look. It's not exactly convenient with some of the cameras that we have here, at least for the start of Interlagos. But we're ready and waiting here for the green flag for the feature event. It's underway now with Giuseppe Tellini. Due to the fact he finished in P10 last race, he gets pole position. Gustavo Calvo filing in behind him. Antonio Robalta and Philippe Lebert going wheel to wheel, coming through the center S for the first time in the feature event. They're continuing to scrap for positions a little bit further back as well. Lebert still remains in P3, and yeah, there is a big crash at the very back. Precario's in it. Lots of drivers are in this one. Philip Hammer has had problems. He takes the tow back to pit lane. Same with Andrew Precario as well. Daniele Camarini is also involved in this. So a big moment here in the very start here, Nolan. Not like we had at Sprint Race.
And there's another big one up at the Descida de Lagos right there. About 4 more cars were just caught up in it. Paulo Espes is also out after a crash at the exit of turn number 3. So a lot more attrition here in the opening round for the feature race, more so than for the sprint race. That has really kind of divvied up the field.
Someone went off and speared off into the barrier at the back here, but I'm just watching this one through because I think it was Andrea Speziale that's got themselves involved. Oh, it's through the Descida de Lago, just gets the back end out, spins, and, well, causes a little bit of concern for those drivers behind, but we will head ourselves back towards the live pictures because, you know, we'll be sitting there all day if we try to get every single replay of everything possible that happened in that first lap, because it seemed like everyone was having problems.
That's so often the case here when you try to fit 32 of the most draft-heavy cars on the surface all into one big field on these really long straightaways. It's honestly just a recipe for disaster for something like this to happen.
It really is. Fighting for the race lead then. I get the feeling this is more strategic positioning than actually fighting for track position, as Gustavo Calvo is now in the race lead. Tellini falls to second. Leber and Anthony Cat are the other members in this currently 4-car pack. That's got a little bit of separation to the group behind, but the group behind certainly still within the touching distance of the slipstream, so they can basically count themselves in this one and make this a larger bleeding pack here as we have the battle for P2 on the way in towards the Interlagos. And I think, get the feeling, these guys will be a little bit more respectful in the opening laps here and not be as frantic as they were in the heat.
These guys got to remember as well, they have that mandatory pit stop they're going to have to make, which can be very crucial. At a track like this, you want to come down with a drafting partner. Usually that's a statement we only say on the oval side of things, especially at tracks like Daytona and Talladega. Well, it's pretty true here as well. There are a lot of long straights at this track where you really need to have a drafting partner in order to be able to kind of work yourself up there. Oh, one car has just been tipped around further in the background. Alfredo Malo's headed off along with Chris McGowan. It looks like they have tangled the two of those drivers headed up into turn 5.
Yeah, we'll take another little look at it, shall we, as we will cycle things back and we'll get ourselves the onboard. Why not? Oh, he's going to try and shoot the middle. Malo, that's a little bit optimistic there. He does get roadblock behind, and then just the difference in the braking points for Ferradura, and there's one driver heavy out into the barriers there, and Malo also has terminal damage to his race as well. So the rate of attrition here in the feature hasn't been too great here on the opening lap. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 drivers also already make their way down on towards pit lane. So yeah, that's just how chaotic the opening laps have been here.
Bowser still fierce for second and third. You got Giuseppe Tolini trying to look 3 wide at the inside into turn 1. Was not nearly able to get it to work, and that's going to cause it to drop all the way back to 4th. Another big chunk in the back as turn 1 does now experience some issues. Another 2 cars have been sent around, including Mark Sierra in this one, and it looks like he collided with a teammate, Benny Simonson, potentially.
Yep, he'll take the toe back as well, so let's take another little look. I get the feeling we're spending more time on replays here than we are actually watching the live racing, but here's the instance with the number 31. Like I said, potentially contact with his teammate going for the inside, both at the same time. Sierra's completely overcooked it on the brakes there, and my word, innocent bystander as well there for Benny Simonson. He had absolutely no idea what was coming, and, well, he could do nothing to avoid it.
Yeah, by the time you realize that's coming, you gotta just do something crazy to avoid it, and you really can't do crazy in these cars. They don't like doing crazy unless you try to go 4 wide down a straightaway. You know, that's always a possibility at any point, especially in races like these with fields as competitive as these. So it's about, I want to say, a top 7, top 8 breakaway up here in the front of this field, and then it's about 9th on back from there.
Yeah, it is. It's that seems to be where the state of the race is right now. Of course, everything can close up quite quickly. It's Leber closing up quite quickly onto the grass there as he exits out of Yunsao. So he will give the run to Gonzalo Calvo, who will re-inherit the race lead. Here comes Anthony Cat as well, 3 wide down the middle, coming up through towards those grid spots and across the start-finish line. I get the feeling this will be more of a common occurrence than we're used to saying.
The potential for a drag race to the line here is a lot bigger than it was at Road Atlanta, I think it's safe to say, with the massively long, straights that you got in the run-up here. Oh, look out! Labor way into the grass there on the entry of turn number 3. Lucky not to get a slowdown penalty there from that one, as now you can already see Anthony Cat's already started to go a little bit more defensive, kind of hanging around the middle of the track with Gonzalo Calvo right behind. The battle's on for 3rd and 4th, though. Diego Francisco up the inside there of the 3rd place driver, Felipe Leber, trying to get his way through in the 48 car.
Trying to squeeze through, battle behind Halibut and Tolini as well. So 2 by 2. Heading their way down into Interlagos and now in towards Ferradura, which can be a little bit trickier to try and negotiate 2 wide, but they're able to get themselves through clean and tidy. Of course, these cars aren't the widest of racing machines, so you can stack a couple of them side by side through corners that where you don't typically see that sort of side by side. But further back, it was the 2 Racecraft esports teammates that were battling. Now Guidi and Edwards are deciding to have, or rather Guidi and Tolini are going to have themselves a little bit of a scrap at the back end of this train as well. So they've got to be careful though, because that train headed up by Simon Edwards at the moment is continuing to close in.
Every time these guys get side by side, it allows a bigger and bigger opportunity for Simon Edwards to start to pull the rest of the train in behind. Now, I think we can obviously expect to see this train kind of split up a bit as people come down to the pit lane. That's exactly what we saw happen in Road Atlanta, but it's only going to take them about 2 or 3 laps here before everything is reformed up again. Battle for the race lead appears to be on. Anthony Cat trying to defend against Gonzalo Cabo, who goes all the way to the right side of the racetrack and will not have the run because of that into turn number 1.
Yep, so Cat leads, then Calvo, then Lebert. Francisco 4th place, so things just keep on shuffling really in this leading pack. Everyone just trying to figure out where they want to be running at this stage of the race, because remember, we do have those these scheduled pit stops to get done, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, Nolan, so maybe the most beneficial place to be right now isn't in the race lead and is actually deeper in the pack, trying to be kind to the throttle and maybe get a bit of a shorter stop time.
I think that's at the moment what Gonzalo Calvo is thinking of, because he could have gone for the move there right off at the center edge, but he actually lifted off the throttle and stayed in behind Anthony Cat. So at the moment, they're actually using Anthony Cat here to save that little bit of fuel to try to stretch this stint out longer, which in turn will mean that they don't have to fill up as much coming to the checker flag. So their pit stops are shorter and they'll come out further in front as well. Kind of going for the overcut seems to be a popular strategy here at the moment.
You do have to remember though, Nolan, that in this series you get a point for every 3 laps you lead. So,
yes.
So the situation right now is that Cat, if no one wants to pass him, then he's just going to be bagging extra points left, right, and center. As he's leading these laps. Of course, you have to lead. It's every 3 laps, so you don't get a point every single lap you do lead. But it might not be a too insignificant difference at the very end of the season when it comes to it. So in a way, you can't really afford to be throwing away points like this. But again, it's more trying to offset that maybe with a better late run in the race and a better points finish in terms of your actual position.
And now Calvo decides to go for the lead. He will sweep away and take what might have been a point there from Anthony Cat away, as he will now take that into turn number 1 and cuts right across the front wing. Beautiful pass there for Gonzalo Calvo. Pretty much textbook there from your new race leader in the 210 machine. A quarter of the way through this race at the moment, and still fighting strong for these guys just behind them here. This is at the moment the biggest train we actually got on the track here, is this front group.
Yeah, it is the main pack. Everyone else behind, granted, we haven't been showing them too much. There's a little bit of a battle back there. That's Fogarini versus Maciuzinski. That's the battle for P12-13 going on out there right now. So there are battles further down the order here, but they've kind of been spread out, having major problems because of that opening lap where we had instance left, right, and center. It's really spread out the mid pack here, and a lot of those cars further back also have bits of damage as well.
I think like the furthest car back right now that wasn't caught up in a lot of the early race melee would actually be Ronan Griffin right now, running the 39 car all the way back in 21st. Everybody behind them has either been collected in major incidents, they've already come down a pit, or they're not even on the track at all because they've DNF'd it.
Yeah, so there's Ronan Griffin out there. He's got a position just ahead of him, so he could break into the top 20, given he makes the right moves. That's Sebastian Jackson ahead of him on the way down the hill and then back up it towards Yun Sao. But back towards that race-leading train, because it is the one that's giving us the wheel-to-wheel action at the moment. Lebert driving to the outside, trying to get a pass done here towards the line. Gets himself up into P2. Here comes the 3 wide for the lead, and all of a sudden, Philippe Lebert goes from P3 to P1 in 1 straight, and just kind of leaves everyone in his dust as far as that pass is concerned.
Did you notice there, Connery, how Calvo actually moved over a little bit more to the right to actually make room for Lebert? So I actually think Calvo pretty much gave him the lead there because he didn't want to spend too much time running up in front. He just wanted to basically get a new guy out in front so Anthony Cat doesn't get the points, because now Cat's no longer logging race lead points, Lebert is. So I think that's what Calvo's strategy was. He wanted to keep Cat from bagging those points. So he stayed out just in front enough so he could get Lebert out in front, and now he's happy to stay fuel again right behind Cat.
Could be. Of course, there are multiple factors influencing this one. Of course, maybe this early in the season they aren't thinking too much about points, even though we've said that it could be a major deciding factor towards the end. Coming towards the, well, just past the middle part of lap number 7 here of 20, still yet to see the scheduled stops. Of course, our predicted pit stop window will start at lap number 9, so that is probably the earliest that you'll start to see the drivers come down in for their scheduled pit stops here. Of course, some drivers have already come down in to get their fast repairs, for example. You only get one fast repair in this series, but it's it's that one extra chance to get back out there and score some points here today. Lebert still leads. Will he get the lead lap logged, though? That's the question, as Anthony Cat looks to his inside for the final corner. There we go. So Anthony Cat up into the race lead now. He gets the leading lap logged. Philippe Lebert second place. Galvo looking as well, looking and moving towards the inside, but not going to be able to find anything on the brakes to challenge P2 there for the moment.
Simon Edwards has also managed to close in with his own train, so we got now first on back all the way to 10th place, running in one long train here. And the 11th place driver here of Gustavo Conde is also not too far off, so we could find ourselves in an 11-car train here before this pit window fully opens up and we see the pit stops start to take shape.
Could do. So that's a big concern there, as we'll continue to watch these guys file through. Again, it's sort of the calm before the storm situation, because usually in these sorts of races, they're a lot more calm, they're a lot more calculated in these first stints, because they know, okay, we have that first stop coming up. No point in going for some overly aggressive moves. Of course, it was balls to the wall in a sprint race, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to this feature race, everyone's just a little bit, once the race settles in, everyone's just a lot more cerebral about how they want to approach the race, and sort of is more planning in that respect. But it does set ourselves up usually for an absolutely fantastic finish, though.
So now the big question is, how are the pit stops going to go? Particularly on pit entry is what I'm concerned about here. These guys are like coming over the crest here. They're doing 100 miles an hour and over that. They're in the draft. You'll be seeing probably about at least 4 guys coming down at the same time in massive groupings like that. One driver's got to put a foot wrong, and all 4 of them could be sent around into the pit wall.
So we are going to be on to lap number 9 this time around. I don't think anyone headed their way on towards the pit lane. So I think if we're going to see the first couple of people, it's going to be at the end of this lap. There's the swap for the race lead. So Lebert back up into first. Cat drops to second. Francisco in third now. So that's the state of play here in the leading pack, but who will be the first one to blink and to come down in? If you do, you got to be hoping that you come down with a group, otherwise you're going to have no draft for your outlaps and you could be losing time.
It's a very fine line here, this one, isn't it? So it's going to be tight here to see how a lot of these drivers are going to kind of shape up. The battles are actually heating up in the rear of this grid, surprisingly. Sam Kinkert has been on the move. He's already passed Edwards in a 3-wide pass. Now he's trying to get around Giuseppe Tolini as well in the 250 machine. And they're side by side with Alexis Tapiavico just behind. So the battles are actually surprisingly at the tail end of this train. And this is causing them to actually lose touch to the guys in front of them.
Yeah, this is the battle for P7 that you're seeing scrapping and amongst each other. And they have to be careful because you can just see, like you mentioned, Dolan, you can see the gap edging out to them and the rest of the leaders, so they can't afford to fight like this for too long, otherwise they're going to lose touch with that leading pack. But I think they've gotten themselves all single file right now. There we go. It's all sorted out, but it just goes to show any unnecessary wheel-to-wheel action, and you're finding yourself dropping off the leading pack. But here's the end of lap number 9 then. Do we see any drivers, at least from this leading group, come down in on towards the safety of pit lane to get their first stops done? We will just have to wait and see. Of course, it sometimes can be left quite late here since because of the way the pit lane is. Cat, does he decide to head his way in? No. Are there any other drivers deciding what's going on? Oh my word! Tolini just about makes pit lane.
as did Diego Francisco. Both drivers were a little close for comfort, admittedly, and I admit I clenched up a little bit when I saw that. I was expecting to all of a sudden see tires go flying and maybe to strike a couple of helmets as well, but 3 cars down on the pit road here, and a bit of a close call there, but that has kind of really shaken up the battle overall out in front. It's only 5 cars down in that leading train.
Oh, I just saw the replay of it. My words. Tellini playing with fire there. That is for sure. Of course, you had Simon Edwards behind of all that as well. We'll get Simon Edwards' view of that entire situation. You can see Tellini just about made the pit lane, and well, that's as close as you like there. With regards to making on towards pit lane and having a pretty embarrassing accident at the pit wall.
So pit window very much open for the first and only time today, hopefully. Coming up to halfway here, Connery, in the second feature race of the year. Now I think that the top, about a couple of half the field or so, in the leading train have come down. I think we can expect the other 5 cars to come on down here all at once here this lap.
Yeah, possibly. The pit window does go on for another lap or 2 longer, but I have to wonder if these guys have any appetite of staying out any longer than they need to. We'll just have to see. But as the light level continues to decrease here at Interlagos, as we are in the evening, so that won't be a huge problem by the time the end of the race arrives, because it is such a short race. But you do have to be careful. Lebert down on towards the pit lane. He wanted to get as much opportunity on the draft as possible. He locks up a little bit coming down on towards the pit lane. Now there was a brief side-by-side moment for the race lead as Halliburton was looking on Anthony Cat, but we do have another couple of drivers down on towards the safety of pit lane. There is Philippe Lebert getting his service done.
Problem is for Lebert, he came down outside of a big drafting train. He really came in all by himself, so he's not going to have any kind of drafting help when it gets back out onto the racing surface. So we'll have to see how that strategy will play out for him. He could come out in lap traffic, though, because remember, he does still have those other guys that were coming out behind him. So I'll have to see where those drivers are at as well.
There they are. So there's Simon Edwards. There is Tellini. Lebert is there. He's going to come out ahead of those guys, behind Francisco, though, all things considered, but ahead of Sam Kietert, ahead of Giuseppe Tellini. There they are, and that is a good margin that Lebert's got them by. But like you said, the bigger issue for Lebert is that he doesn't have any slipstream partners, so it'll be actually maybe Francisco is sort of giving him a little draft here on his outlaps, but not all that much. But that's about half the field now coming down in for their scheduled stops. Another half to go, and I get the feeling they'll come down in the big group just like you conjectured, Nolan.
Frusion Sal for the race leaders at the moment. Anthony Cat still heads the train. Halliburton second, Calvo fourth. Guidi rounds out the top 4 at the moment. Alexis Tapiavico just hanging on to the guys behind at the 5th position, but he's kind of almost losing touch back there as well. So once again, back down for the pit entry lane, but we see more drivers come down to the lane this time by. There goes 1, 2, 3, and 4 more down to the lane this time by. Drag Racing deep on the brakes and side by side for the race lead as Halliburton tries to get the pass done. There's still actually drivers in the pits because somehow Halliburton has actually managed to pull ahead still.
They're neck and neck down towards the pit stalls. I'm going to be very interested now to see how this turns out, because of course there is this battle on the pit lane, but of course it's you have to be aware of where they're going to come out in relation to the likes of Lebert, Tellini and all that. But look at that, what a stop from Anthony Cat. Comes out clean ahead of Halliburton, and Halliburton getting cycled even further back. It was actually a poor start there, a poor pit stop, excuse me, for Halliburton. That actually let Guidi through as well. Where is Lebert? There is Lebert out on the circuit. Lebert trying to drive to the race lead right now, but, well, he's going to have a bit more momentum coming off the Curva del Sol here, but maybe Calvo can just slide up across in front of him. But look at how far Diego Francisco is ahead of these guys. He had an amazing pit stop phase. It was the shortest stop of everyone, by the way.
Shortest stop of everybody. It is a good 2.5 seconds out in front there. So Francisco's got himself in a very comfortable position in the lead there. If these guys start fighting, what happens though if they decide not to fight and they decide to help each other out? Then Francisco is in trouble, and down that front straightaway, he'll be a sitting duck in a couple laps here.
He absolutely will be. He's about 1.6 ahead, which is kind of, we'll see. It's in the we'll see range of trying to break the draft here. So he's got to have the clear air pace to be able to do so as well. So we'll watch it and we'll see how that gap extends or contracts over the next couple of laps. And of course, if it's coming down in at a rate of knots, then we can see for sure that he hasn't been able to run away for the race lead. So this pack from P2 on back could indeed work together with the slingshotting just to try and catch your race leader here. That might be ultimately be the plan if they feel that he's getting away a little bit too quickly.
Oh, they didn't close up all that much though. Only 1.5 still down the front straightaway, and in fact, partway down, Francisco actually grew the gap. So now Leber is going to cycle through the lead. Calvo backs off a bit on the entry to let him have it. Look at Cat though with the send.
Well, I was more reacting to Leber just locking up the brakes in towards the ZRS, but it did look like that Anthony Cat had a big look as well. Calvo going very wide through the Curva del Sol. Cat, is he going to have an opportunity here into the Interlagos? Again, these guys can't afford to fight too much, otherwise the race lead will get away from them. So in line they will remain into that downhill left-hander. Leber is sliding that car out all over the place, and Francisco is continuing to, well, keep the gap where it is or even extend it a little bit. So this is looking great for Diogo as long as the fuel numbers are okay.
1.7 out in front now for Francisco, so the gap is only continuing to grow here. Now the question is, was that because these guys were fighting it out side by side, or is Francisco just genuinely faster than these guys? He does have some draft from Chris McGowan just up the road that is helping him admittedly.
Yeah, so we can take a look, and yeah, you can see a little bit of lap traffic ahead of him, which will definitely be beneficial to his cause and allow him to be able to just continue to pull the gap and maybe even get a tiny bit of fuel saving done as well, just in case that's an issue. I'm always concerned about how wide these drivers are pushing coming out of Yunsao, as the grass can really grab you there. But yeah, it's just an interesting dynamic of the race now. It's basically Diogo Francisco versus the world, and it looks like Diogo's winning at the moment.
And he wants to fight, but there's nobody to give it to him because right now they're fighting each other too much. Felipe Leber side by side as Gustavo Calvo takes up the second position. McGowan does slot in line with Diogo Francisco. Now this is where this is going to play in big time with this second train, because remember how Francisco was getting the drafting help. Well, now it's kind of flipped the other way around. Now Francisco has no help, and that second train has got the lap car to help them work their way up.
Gap is still extended though up to over 1.9 seconds now. So that is a pretty comfortable buffer for Francisco to work with, especially, you know, because the lap traffic can either help him or hinder him at this point. If it helps him and gets in the way of the second train a little, gets in the way of this train a little, then that's gonna, you know, be almost the race win kind of sealed for him. But if it's more helpful than a hindrance, then of course that is a little bit of a bigger concern for the end of this race. So again, another little interesting element to this one that's at least we didn't see at Road Atlanta, but of course here it is such a, you know, we had so many problems at the very start of the race. There are a lot of drivers that had to come down in and now off pace and can get caught by the race leaders.
Over 2 seconds now is the gap, so it is still continuing to grow. I mean, these guys they're just trying to, you know, continue to grow more and more out in front. Now this is the great place for these cars to catch McGowan. They're in optimal drafting distance right now, so they're going to get a big head of steam here. So we could potentially see a flip in the gap. Oh no, McGowan's going to swing wide, and the gap continues to extend.
It does. Leber just going to sit up in the slipstream here. They need to get these slingshots coordinated, otherwise Francisco's just going to run away. So Calvo will go to the outside here, will potentially let Leber through, but Leber's not going for it because there is Anthony Cat kind of just spoiling the party.
Everybody's trying to fight for their own little positions here, and if these guys really want to go for the win, they got to start working together here, because if they keep fighting amongst themselves, they're never going to be able to work their way up. And right now, the more that Francisco sees two cars side by side in the mirror, that's what he wants to see, because he knows that that means they're fighting each other, and they're not concerned about working their way up to him.
Yeah, gap has crept back beneath the 2 seconds, so it's in a period of stasis right now. We've got about 5 or so laps to go, and maybe the time is ticking for this P2 group at the moment. They haven't been organized whatsoever with regards to getting themselves up towards the race leader. They've been scrapping in amongst themselves. They've been trying to play mind games with each other, and they're just losing time to Francisco because of it. But the other issue for Francisco is here that his stop was the fastest stop of everyone out there that's inside the top 25. So the issue for Francisco now is that apart from that one bit of lap traffic, he hasn't been given any sort of opportunity to get any sort of fuel saving done. So if he's short fueled it, then this is a big worry to the end. So I wouldn't sort of, count the chickens before they've hatched here for Francisco. He's still got to get to the checkered flag with some fuel in the tank.
I am noticing the gap has started to close. It's down to 1.8 seconds now with 5 laps to go. And you're absolutely right, Connery. He did take a stop of about 1.5 to 2 seconds less than everybody else. But his stint is he's also been out there 2 laps longer than anybody else. So shorter fuel pit stop time combined with being out there for longer. That's a recipe for fuel mileage.
Yeah, it really is, and this second pack continues to have a couple of moments in through the first couple of corners. Now Anthony Katz sat up right behind the 2 ahead of him here in that blue and white Skip Barber machine, but they all remain single file through the Desierto del Lago, and they're not making any sort of impact on that race lead gap. That's all I'm going to say at this point. It's simply not working for them. It's back up to above 2 seconds. So Diogo is a man on a mission at the moment, and it seems like no one else behind him could organize enough to be able to do anything about him.
They spend too much time fighting with themselves. In all honesty, if they were more focused on trying to get up there than fighting each other for the last 6 or 7 laps or so, they probably could have already caught him, and we'd be in the midst of a big fight for the lead, but they've just been too busy fighting with each other to worry about it. And now the gap, again, continuing to extend. 2.15 now, so he's gained about 2 tenths just this lap alone.
He has, and ironically, the more the buffer extends, the more breathing room that Francisco has. He can even do a little bit of clear air fuel saving just in case the fuel numbers aren't quite good enough to be able to get to the end. So it's all really working out in Francisco's favor. It seems like at the very end, all signs are pointing towards only a battle for P2 rather than the battle for the race lead at the very end of things here. And well, they'll look to try and spread themselves out on the way in towards turn number 1. Anthony Cat up into P2. There's the big send there from Luca Guidi, or at least an attempted big send in towards turn 1 as he's looking to get his way forward now.
So Cat up to second. Leber still trying to fight for third. The slot back in line here in the run down to the Desierto del Lagos. Gonzalo Calvo is starting to kind of lose a little bit of touch up here, but he's going to close right up on the brakes into the Desierto del Lagos. The sun continuing to set here now, 6 p.m. exactly in sim time. Leber runs really wide out of that last corner there out for turn 4. That is going to lose him a little bit of time to Anthony Cat as well.
It is, and the gap at the lead now is 2.2 seconds, so it's continues to get worse for these guys in this peloton, if to use a cycling term, and it's the favourite term of Will Vincent, of course, that used to commentate this series a whole bunch a good while back. Looking back at Kane Halliburton, of course, he has his teammate of Brian Lockwood in the chat, who's kind of giving some words of encouragement and hoping that he's able to work his way through. But for Kane right now, he's on the back of the P2 train at the moment, so ample opportunity for him to work his way through. But as far as a race win is concerned, that's looking less and less likely by the minute, even though these guys have caught about 0.2 of a second on this lap.
Well, at the moment, with 3 laps to go, they would need to reel in about 3/4 of a second every lap to be able to catch him. And unless... Oh, there it is! Francisco to pit road! He didn't have the fuel to make it!
Oh no, we were talking about the fuel. We thought it was a short stop with a lot of laps left to go. Francisco overly optimistic about being able to save the fuel required for the end of this race. This does mean now Philippe Lebert inherits the race lead, and now this P2 train becomes the leading train, and now we have a race on.
Anthony Cat probably could have made the move here into the Interlagos. Decides to stick in line, though. He's not going to be impatient here. Anthony Cat, he knows when to go. He knows when to stay. And at the moment, he needs to stay where he is to try to set himself up for a little bit later on in the lap. Because he knows if he gets in the lead now, he's not going to be able to get anywhere when he gets around to the front straightaway.
And so the stakes have been raised here in this little train that we've been focusing on throughout. Everyone else further down the order of Caval spread out due to incidents that we had a little bit earlier on in the race, but now we have a whole bunch of fun on the horizon in amongst all of these drivers. 5 drivers, only 1 race win and 3 podium spots can be shared amongst them. It's just about which order these guys will come across the line now.
Only 1 driver can come out on top. All 5 drivers are still compressing, according out. Now, Gonzalo Calvo is closer to Cat, and Cat is to Lebert. The problem is, while Calvo does have Cat's draft, Cat also has Lebert's draft. So Philippe Lebert right now, he's the guy that's got to look in his mirrors. Cat is going to look for the outside line coming down the front straightaway here towards the start-finish line. Through the pit wall they go, and look at this, the 25 car back up to the point.
And here comes Ludwig Guidi as well. Guidi just steams by Calvo. Calvo's being freight trained at the moment by a good couple of cars trying to find his way around the outside. Lebert, oh my God, big crash. Big crash in the back as Guidi into the wall. Calvo also involved in that big incident in the leading train at the very end here. Anthony Cat gets himself to the race lead, but we'll just take a couple of moments to have a look at exactly what happened there, as we'll get a view of Guidi in just a couple of moments. There he is. This is the situation coming down in towards turn number 1 here. Lebert sliding up ahead. It all stacks up, though Guidi got checked up behind Cat, and everyone else just went into the back of him.
It takes the 1 driver when you're in a trade like this. It only takes 1 to kick off an absolute mess like that, and that was all it took. And Philippe Lebert didn't even do anything wrong. It wasn't malicious. He just got loose and came across. It was the checkup. It's always the checkup that gets people like that.
Yeah, it's you know, it's the most dangerous situation when you have a car have a slide or is a little bit slow ahead and through a sequence of corners, and everyone else has to slow up, check up, check up, check up. Of course, the first guy might see the front car slowed up, but the second, there's no guarantee the second, third, fourth driver is going to see what has happened here. So they're going to be surprised a little bit more than what the first driver to the scene was, and that's what causes that sort of incident there. So, my words, this keeps on changing, it keeps on developing, but we are now heading on towards the final lap here at Interlagos. Lap 19 is in the books, on to lap number 20. Anthony Cat in the race lead as Lebert looks to his outside. On the way down across the start-finish line, Lebert to the race lead. Halliburton looking to make some progress as well. He's in P3, but Lebert leads here early on this final lap. He's just about got himself ahead. Now technically 4 cars involved in this as Calvo's on the back of the train.
Anthony Cat trying to get the slipstream. Halliburton's looking to the left side, trying to pick up second. It could be 3 wide here, potentially for the race lead. Cat gets checked up behind Lebert as Halliburton blocks him in, uses the first place car as a pick to try to pick up the second position. Side by side for second as Lebert's free to run wide. Not so much for the bottom two. These guys got to get themselves single filed out, and they're not going to have the time at the end around the front straightaway. Gonzalo Calvo is still waiting in the mix as well. Nearly getting run off the track is Anthony Cat.
It's all getting a bit spicy between all of these guys. Leber still leads them through Ferradoras. Anthony Cat looks to the inside on Halliburton. Halliburton's not going to give that one up without a fight. He'll have to try and carry the momentum around the outside of the right. Hang it on the inside of the left. He can't quite get it as Anthony Cat continues to make some progress, and now his sights are set ahead to see what he can do about Philippe Leber at the end of this race. We saw 3 wide across the line in the sprint race. Will we see 3 wide across the line here in the feature when the stakes are so much higher? We will just have to wait and see. Only a couple more corners to go before we see the result of this one. Remember, Halliburton and potentially Calvo could potentially win this from P3 and 4, just in case they get the best run. But here we go. Here's the run to the line then, as they'll get themselves set, defending all the way to the pit wall then. It's Leber versus Cat all the way to the start-finish line. It is so damn close, but Anthony Cat able to pip Leber to the line to win the feature race at Interlagos.
Closer than the sprint race, 34 thousandths of a second, and Cat manages to get it done.
And you can see exactly how happy he is about that one, just sliding that car in celebration. Everyone else heading their way across the line. I get the feeling there was a couple of close finishes here. There might be a close finish here for P17-18. No, that's Ronan Griffin running out of steam a little bit towards the end there. But my word, what a good couple of finishes here we've had in the 2 races that we've seen at Interlagos. We've had basically 4 grandstand finishes already in the season, and we've only had 4 races. So, you know, it's a 100% success rate as far as exciting finishes are concerned. That's what makes this series so great. The rest of the runners are slowly but surely heading their way across the line now. There's the P22, P23 battle between Andrea Spezzale and Daniele Camerini, but Camerini is not going to have enough speed towards the line here to be able to do anything about getting up into P22. So there we go. Oh my word, that is again another absolutely amazing finish, but of course we'll just have to recap exactly what the results were here in the feature race. There they are. Anthony Cat by 35 thousandths of a second at the end there. Just about comes away with the race win. Like Philippe Leber is going to be kicking himself after that one. He resides in P2. Halliburton in P3 with a good finish. Gonzalo Calvo in P4. Alexis Vico in P5. Sam Keita P6. Giuseppe Tallini P7. Simon Edwards P8. Manuel Lucetta in P9. And George Matazinski in the final spot inside the top 10. The rest of them, though, we got Gustavo Conde in P11, Edwin Valerino P12, P13 goes to Daniele Fogarini, and Hans Hoyer rounds out the top 14. Diogo Francisco P15, he was leading early on, and we thought he might have done enough to be able to get to the checkered flag, but fuel issues for him means he has to take an extra pit stop and cycle further down through the order. Remco Fleischer and Sebastian Jackson down to P17. Ronan Griffin, Antonio Rebelta, and Joshua Dancy round out the top 20, and then you've got the final runners, and of course those that had retirements as well, namely Guidi, McGowan, Simonson, Sierra, Malo R, Perez, and of course those at the very start of the race that had issues, Fogario and Espez further down the order. But Nolan, I think we have to get used to these sorts of finishes. I'll be honest.
Oh, you don't say. I mean, it's the Skip Barber 2K World Cup. Skip Barber should tell you all you need to know. These finishes, they are always exciting week in, week out. There's a reason why back when we were broadcasting the series, and even before I joined RaceSpotTV, this is one of my favorite series to watch, and for good reason. Every single race is always phenomenal, with always a lot of battling in it, and they're making such a comeback with, like you said, 4 grandstand finishes in the first 4 races of the season.
Yeah, it's been absolutely great. Both the double headers that we've had so far this season. Not all of these events will be double headers, of course. It's just a coincidence that we have we have 2 of them very early on in the season here today. But of course, we've had these great events at Road Atlanta. We've had these great races here at Interlagos as well. We've got a couple of more tracks on the horizon as well, of course, as we can take another little look at the schedule. So So next time, Nolan, we head to Mid-Ohio on April 25th. So that one's going to be an interesting one. Perhaps not as much as a huge draft circuit as some of the others that we've been to, but again, should promote some crazy racing. I think these guys will figure out how to do crazy racing at any track that we can throw at them, so it might not even matter.
You never know. You really never know. Mid-Ohio is one of those tracks where it is a lot more technical than a lot of the circuits we go to. It's definitely one of those tracks where it's slower, it's definitely twistier, but you never know. The Skip Barbers, they seem to like tracks like that.
Yeah, they really, really do. As we're just waiting right now for a couple of the drivers to come in for their interviews here, but there's only so much time we can wait. But Nolan, what a performance from Anthony Catt, for example, to be able to get himself in just the right place at the right time. And I get the feeling that's the way most of these races are going to be run throughout this season, is the fact that on that, those final 2 laps or so, it's all about being in the right place at the right time. No matter if you're faster in clear air or if you're, just tagging onto the back of the train, if you find yourself in the right place at the right time to get that slipstream into the right passing point on the final lap, anyone in that leading train can come away with the win, especially if there's a little bit of contact.
Oh yeah, it goes to show just how great this series can be. I mean, Anthony Catt, like you said, he managed to find a way up there, and it just goes to show that these races, they are so critical to make sure everything is exactly right. We thought Francisco would have the win, but no, he just short fueled by about 2 laps. That's all it takes. These guys, it goes to show that, some series, they'll put in I'm kind of going on a tangent here. Some series, they'll put in the mandatory pit stops, and it'll be pretty easy to see what people are going to do. They're going to run it out dry to halfway, run it out dry to the end. Not the case here. They leave you with just enough that you could still play around with the strategies, and definitely you have lots of room to shoot yourself in the foot, it would seem.
You really, really do. Optimistic play there from Diogo Francisco, but he wasn't able to convert. So I was getting scared that we would only have a battle for P2 at the end there, and when you're scared that you'll only quote-unquote get a battle for P2, it just goes to show what the caliber of the field is. But it does look like that we won't really be getting ourselves any interviews at the end of that one, because I think that's kind of understandable, though, Nolan, considering that I think all of the energy has been sapped out of them, and they don't want to talk anymore.
I don't blame him. I mean, I've just come off of 2 very exciting races myself, so I can get the feeling where you don't really want to do a whole lot of talking afterwards. You just want to kind of just flop back and relax. So I understand where the drivers are coming from. A lot of them really looked like they were putting everything they had into it today. Certainly not an easy task to do what they do. So being tuckered out, I think that's understandable.
Yeah, totally understandable, but of course we do have to wrap things up here. Thank you guys very much for watching this second round of the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. It has been an absolutely brilliant event once again, and we are so happy here at RaceSpotTV to be able to broadcast this series once again. Of course, we have been very long-term partners since basically towards the start of RaceSpotTV being a thing, and of course it's great to see them back here in the 2021 season. But there are our names up on screen. I'm Connery Maddock. I've been joined by Nolan Rempel here in this one, but before we go, they're only just getting themselves into into the commentary booth here. So we will speak to them just for a couple of moments here. We will just wing it. But I'm going to drag Philippe Leber into the commentary booth. Philippe Leber, we were just about to wrap up, but you just came in at the exact right time. Philippe, how did that go? Second place. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, it was a little bit unexpected. Can you hear me? Because I changed my microphone.
Yeah, of course. We can indeed hear you. But yeah, it seemed like a pretty crazy race from our perspective. How was it from yours?
Well, it was crazy. I haven't been in that position in a very long time because I just don't have time to practice. So I'm usually in the 10th position or so. So I was extremely nervous. I made a lot of mistakes. So all I tried to do was to stay in the top 3 position and try to get the lead in the last lap. I was hoping that the two behind me would start fighting. They did, but I messed up my last corner. So yeah, it's too bad, but I'm pretty happy with second.
Yeah, of course. At one point in that feature event, we did have the situation where Diogo Francisco came out well ahead of you guys and was looking to try and get the fuel to the end of the race, but he wasn't able to. Were you scared at one point during that you guys wouldn't be able to catch Francisco if he was able to last the distance?
Yeah, first of all, when he came out ahead of me, like more than a second ahead of me, I was wondering if he had enough fuel. And then when it became clear that we were not going to catch him, I started fighting for P2. And then all of a sudden he pulled into the pits. So that was lucky for me, but unfortunate for Diogo.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. It was unfortunate, especially given you guys. If he was able to get to the end, that would have been a big surprise, especially considering he took basically the shortest stop of everyone, but was also one of the early cars to come down on towards pit lane. So it would have been a big effort. But for you, though, at least Philippe, the guys racing around you, Kane Halberton, Gustavo Calvo, it seemed like you guys were both relatively firm and also quite aggressive, quite reserved. So how would you rate the racing that went on out there? Because in some instances it was a little bit too aggressive, shall we say, at least in the early stages.
Oh yeah, the sprint race doesn't count because everyone's nuts in that race. So, but in the feature race, it got a little feisty at some point. But kudos to everyone. The respect and the quality of driving was just amazing. I would give it a 10 at least. I did see one incident behind me, but I think that's all we had. Nothing else happened, so that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, basically every little incident kind of happened behind that behind the race leading group. So you guys were basically in the clear for a lot of it, but. Again, it's a great result for you. I'm guessing that you're going to be very happy with this and where it puts you at least for this opening portion of the season. Do you think that sort of momentum can carry through into the next couple of rounds?
Not really. I don't think I will be able to do every race, and even then, I'm not fast enough. So it's just a lucky result for me, and I'm just gonna shoot for podiums. That's the best I can do, I think, this season.
Well, there we go. That's we wish you the best of luck in that respect, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you in the interview booth at the end of the race a couple more times throughout this season.
I'll do my best.
All right, there we go. So that's Philippe Lebert finishing second in the feature race here today. We have one more interview to get over and done with very, very quickly indeed. We'll bring in Simon Edwards here, finishing P8 today in the feature event. Nolan, you're standing by with Mr. Edwards.
Indeed, I am. So, Mr. Edwards, we come on back to a close of yet another exciting race, 25 laps in total, and, well, yourself, you managed to come on out with a nice top 10 out of everything, won the sprint race, 8th place in the feature race. How do you reckon the day went for you?
Went pretty well, really. I'm only here to gloat that I've won my first 2K race. I know it was only the sprint race, but there you go. Second race, I made a boo-boo. So I went into the pits on lap 9. I knew how much fuel to put in for 11 laps, if I'd gone in on lap 9, or if I'd gone in on lap 10 or lap 11. The problem is I looked down when I was fueling and I saw I was on lap 10. But I'd actually gone in on lap 9 and I'd crossed the line. So I was a lap short of fuel. I was just desperate at the end there, just saving. I was barely using the throttle and I just got over. So 8th is a wonderful result after that mistake.
And certainly it may be a sprint race win, but a win is a win nonetheless. Of course, Interlagos and Road Atlanta, they're both pretty draft-heavy tracks that we've been to so far for the opening rounds this season. We go over to Mid-Ohio, though, and that is going to be an interesting race, I think, to say at the very least. There is not nearly a lot of more opportunities there to draft, apart from the very long back straightaway. So how do you reckon that race is going to go? Because it has pretty much been pack racing for the first 4 races of the season. Maybe not so much, though, for round number 5.
Yeah, there's more chance of it breaking up at that track. It'll still be a bit of a draft lock. So if everybody doesn't pass each other, you would just have a big line of cars. Because of the draft lock. But if there's a couple of passes going in there, then it might break the packs up. So it might be more exciting. It might be more boring. I'm not sure yet.
Well, we'll have to wait then and see, well, just what comes on up for us when we go on over there. Well, hopefully you can have the best of luck at Mid-Ohio, and maybe we could talk to you in the winner's circle once again, whether it be for the sprint race or hopefully for the feature race. Before I let you go here, Simon, anybody you'd like to shout out for us today?
I'd like to shout out to Philip. I'm glad he's restarted this series again, and I can see that he's starting to get his pace back up. So that's good. I'm really happy about that. I'm always happy that RaceSpot are doing the coverage as well. That's always a good thing. So a shout out to you guys.
Thank you, Simon, for taking the time to join us tonight. Best of luck when we swing on over for round 5 at Mid-Ohio.
Well, there we go. Simon Edwards there, of course, sprint race winner and feature race 8th place finisher. Of course, a decent points all here today for that particular driver, but we do have to rather swiftly bring things to a close here at the 2K Skip Barber World Cup from Interlagos. What an event it has been, with a lot of action up and down the field. We head to Mid-Ohio for our 3rd round of a season in just a week's time. So make sure you tune into RaceSpotTV, same time, same place next week for that. But for now, bye-bye.